Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. Now on to our interview slot. William Minnie is the youngest newly elected local authority councillor for the Mariental Constituency in Namibia, a position he secured at just 23 years old, representing the Landless People's Movement, LPM. Now his election marks a generational shift in local governance, driven by a platform focused on youth empowerment, improved service delivery and transparent leadership. Well, he now joins us on the line from Mariental. A very good morning to you, Winnie.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I am very well. So, Minnie, talk to us about your motivation to move from youth engagement to seeking political office.
Well, you see, I constantly get the question in terms of my motivation. I think the problem is that, or not the problem rather, but rather to make it clear, the motivation comes from the fact that, politics is not an abstract exercise. It's a lived reality of people. We determine on local government level whether people have access to water on a daily, whether people are able to switch on lights in their homes on a daily. We determine whether the road infrastructure is adequate and up to standards to allow for vehicles to drive every single day, vehicles who also carry children through public transport, through private transport to schools and so on. That is our responsibility. And that is where my motivation comes from, because before I became a political activist, I was a youth activist. And these are issues that we have seen because it's a community that I grew up in. So that is where the motivation comes from, because politics is not an abstract exercise. It is the lived realities of each and every citizen within the republic, not just confined to the Namibian community, but of course the country as a whole.
Right. So talk to us about how you balance being a young leader with practical responsibility, responsibilities of being a councillor now.
You see, I don't think anyone is ever ready fully whenever they step into public office, but because you knew what comes along with the responsibility of being a councillor, you have to take on each and every task head on. It's not as if when we entered office or when we started campaigning that we were oblivious to the fact that we are going to encounter challenges of a different nature. And because you're also a young person, you know the different struggles that young people face in this country. So it's not as if this is in some way an anomaly. It is not something foreign to us, but because you have stepped into this responsibility of being a councillor and also being an individual before you're a councillor, each and every challenge you take on, you must take on with your head fully. Because these are the things that we signed up for when we started campaigning and when we said we are ready to serve the Namibian population.
All right. Now, Minnie, we do have this perspective of politics is just for the older generation. What is your take on that, and how does it make you feel as a young person belonging now in this current political space?
Well, I think we have seen a major shift in Namibian politics. And it's actually very, 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 very good to see. Many of the councillors currently in office, from councillors to ministers to administrative staff to EDs, are young people. People below the age of 60, below the age of 50, below the age of 40. We have seen that one of my good friends, Minnie, is currently also the youngest member of parliament. And that is the reality that we're currently seeing. We have young ministers. The Minister of Health is a young person. We're seeing so many EDs who are also young people. And that is a very important shift, because we must do away with this African norm that politicians must be old. Politics should not be a retirement home, because we deal with each and every lived reality of our people. It cannot be a retirement home. We need young people in office. We need energy in office. We need fresh brains. We need new ideas. We need real thinking in office. That is what we need in it. And I'm quite glad to see that shift in the Namibian political space. So to say, I am quite happy with the shift that we're currently seeing in the Namibian political space. And it's something that we must appreciate as the Namibian population, that we have young people in office. Because with young people comes fresher ideas, fresher minds. And that is what we must appreciate, and that is what we must work on and work with.
All right. Now, William, for young people that are watching this program and hearing you speak on this very important aspect of taking up politics as a young person, what is your advice to them if they to consider taking the public office?
I'm sorry to hear you a bit, ma'am.
Now, I was saying for a young person that is currently watching the show and is also thinking of taking up space in this political public office, what is your advice to them?
My advice to them would be that now you must see that public office and politics is not just for old people. Now you can see that on the decision-making table, in fact, we have not waited for chairs to be filled out. In fact, we have taken over the entire table. And each and every one of us, with the passion, with humility also, with the passion, with the humility, with the willingness, you can do it. You must appeal to your constituents. Take part in the democracy of this country. Put your name forward. Don't wait for someone to call you. Don't wait for an appointment. When the time comes and the space opens and you have the willingness to serve the Namibian people, do it. Get up, run for office. Get up, campaign. Get up, engage. Even if it's not just in political office, but community work. Get up. You know the type of realities that you live. You know the country that you live in. You know your society. You know your community. If you see an error and you want to rectify it, get up and do it so with unwavering favor.
All right.
You must get up and you must do it because it is your responsibility at the end of the day as a Namibian citizen and as someone who is a custodian of this country and who has to lead this generation and the generation thereafter into the promised land.
Right. Now, William, let's now shift our focus to your campaign. What are the community issues that were central during your campaign, and what will your initial focus be in this public office?
As I said the other day on the daily roundup, my focus areas are in terms of bettering the issues of water. Water is a serious problem in our country, and I believe that if those who have opened the Namibian Sun this morning would see that a lot of stakeholders owe NamWater a lot of money, and that is because of water consumption. At the end of the day, we need to provide water to people. Water needs to get to our people. We're in the process of formalizing informal settlements. That is a very important step for us. We're doing it currently in Mariental. Yesterday, we were on the ground as new councillors to oversee and to understand and to also acquaint ourselves with the process of the formalization of informal settlements. We look at electricity connectivity, which is also central to us. Besides the campaign, besides the campaigning issue, it's personally a very big issue to me. It's a priority area to me that electricity reaches our people because we are doing away with dark neighborhoods, dark community areas, dark societies. No one must live in the dark in an independent Namibia. We are about 36 years, close to 36 years into our country's democracy. Another one is housing infrastructure. And it's a very serious issue because we have Namibian citizens who are currently living in shacks, who don't have any place to live, who are renting in shacks also, and we must do away with that thing. So we must pick up where previous councillors have left, where the central government has left. We must now enter into some sort of agreement as well with private sector and other stakeholders. And we need to get funding to ensure that each and every person gets a house, a properly built house, together with proper sanitation, because you cannot bring water and electricity to a shack. That is not the upliftment of the dignity of the Namibian people. We must ensure that everyone has proper housing. And we do have a national housing plan as a country. We have the Build Together plan as a country, and we need to take these things very seriously and actively work on it to ensure that people actually do get access to proper housing, because that is our responsibility. So those are the focus areas. But the most important one for me at this current juncture, after of course understanding and knowing the challenges that we face in the community in Mariental, is that we have a very serious housing crisis, and we need to pick up from that. So those are the focus areas.
All right. Now, having mentioned those focus areas, talk to us about how you plan to actually address those youth serious issues affecting young people, such as unemployment, the water being the main issue here, housing challenges, and of course, land access that is not only in Mariental, but in the country in general.
I'm of the opinion that the youth unemployment issue is a national crisis. We cannot have graduates who are unemployed. Then we are doing a disservice to the Namibian nation, because we were told as young people, much younger than this, that education is the key. And we've gotten the education now. So where's the door? Because of the happenings in this country, the door has been broken down. The door has been broken down by people who have actively worked to dilapidate the country and to break down the country. So speaking in the context of Mariental, we have this system whereby we employ young people on a contractual basis. While we are building up the municipality, in terms of increasing the size of the municipality. We're actively now planning on working together because we've been sitting informally, although council is on recess, we've been sitting informally for the past week and a half to see where we can come in with these issues, where we can come in terms of when capital projects come and we are spearheading of course, spearheading these capital projects as the municipality to see when these projects come eventually, where contractors can come in to assist with curbing the youth unemployment crisis, to help us employ young people who are currently unemployed in the community. We are looking at where we can come in with private sector to ensure that where private sector can meet us halfway in terms of assisting us with employing young people or to assist us with creating employment in and within and around the area of Mariental to try and curb the crisis that we currently have. We are also working on and this will be addressed, of course, in our first management sitting, as we have discussed informally as councillors, is to see how we can in some way incorporate into the budget of the municipality funding for young people who need access to education, because access to education is another one that is very important for us. So that is what we are currently working on as a council, although we have only spoken informally. But that is what we are planning on introducing, because majority of the councillors in Mariental are young people below the age of 35. And so we have been sitting informally. We do know the challenges that we have, and we are actively working and trying to find alternative solutions to the employment crisis, the youth unemployment crisis that we have in Mariental.
All right. Now, William, another issue that is penning or rather making headlines in the country is corruption and transparency. How do you plan to actually promote transparency and address issues of corruption through open meetings and procurement processes?
Because we are the biggest complainers in terms of corruption, and we as young people are the biggest complainers, and since now we are in office, what we have decided is we need to actively engage with our community members. And what we are planning to do is to disclose and to open up the budget to the public to show them what we have in our coffers, what our expenses are, what we're doing with which money. And that is very important to us, because in that way, you're showing the community that they should have trust in you, because this is what you're showing them. This is what is there. You're playing a transparent game here. You need to be open, and you need to play open book with these people, because they must understand what there is, what you can do, what you can't do, but that is based on each budget year. So currently what we're doing is, because as councillors, we cannot actively engage into the procurement process of the municipality, because then we'll be breaching and overstepping our powers, because we cannot be directly involved in procurement. But what we advise, or what we can advise the accounting officer, which is the chief executive officer, is to open up everything. Open up the procurement process, allow each and every person to bid. But what the problem is here is constantly you see the same contractors, you see the same tenderpreneurs, you see the same entrepreneurs who bid and get awarded tenders. And that is something that we need to clarify from the get-go. Opportunities have to be given to people who have not gotten the opportunity to also assist where they can and to also come in with their expertise. And that is what we're currently advising the accounting officer. We sat down with the acting CEO on Monday, and we also discussed these issues of procurement as well with her, to say that we need to allow for people to bid and be awarded on a rotational basis, to say that each and every person must get a chance to do so. Each and every person must get a chance to be awarded a tender to do a specific job. And it cannot constantly be the same contractor or the same tenderpreneur who gets the tender, who gets awarded the tender to deliver stationery for the municipality. It cannot be like that, because then you're only empowering one person, one person's company, one person's household, and it cannot be like that. If we want to build an equal society, and if we want a society whereby each and every person who has a business can participate and can actively work and engage on a business level with the municipality, then we must rotate and we must open up these processes, and we must give every company a chance. So that is where we're currently standing with the issue. But further engagements will be done through with the councillors as well as senior administrative staff, particularly the accounting officer.
All right. Now, with all of that said, William, talk to us about what your value guides are when it comes to decision making, and particularly when faced with difficult challenges, especially being a newly elected, that is a local authority councillor for. Can you hear me now?
I'm still struggling to hear you.
Okay, now I was saying, with that said, what are your values? What are the value guides with decision making when it comes to being faced with difficult choices? How are you going to handle that? And what are your values that are going to guide your decision making?
I'm of the opinion that because I was raised in an Orthodox Roman Catholic household, my values are very much guided by Catholic principles. So in every decision making, I firmly believe that one cannot do so without the required discernment. So before each and every decision is made, I consult a higher power, and that higher power must be God at each and every time. To guide me through my values, I also have a spiritual mentor who is Reverend Charles Goliath, which I seek advice and counseling on in terms of guiding me on this journey of leadership. Of course, every person needs their mentor, and that is the person who helps me in terms of my values and guides me in terms of my leadership.
Lovely. All right. How will you involve residents in decision making and ensure that their concerns are heard?
Because we are deemed by the Act to host constant community meetings, what we want to actually do is we want to decentralize that also, so to say. I'm not sure if decentralizing is the correct word, but what we want to do is we currently have a program where we are relocating people from certain settlements from certain areas, to different locations of the town where we want to, of course, bring basic services, water, electricity, all those things. But what we have noticed is that community engagement is very important, like on a basis, if you understand what I mean, like on a regular basis, not a daily basis, but on a regular basis, because in a way to also curb misinformation, you need to constantly engage with the community, and that is what we've realized. Yesterday, we were on the ground in a formal settlement, and we realized that a lot of misinformation is being spread around, and of course, what the residents don't want to hear from is administrators. So they want to hear from people that they elected, that they voted for. So what we've seen and what we've understood now is that constant community engagement is actually very important. So we will have to go back onto the ground each and every time. We can't expect people, especially elderly residents, to constantly come to the municipality to come and seek clarity. We need to ensure that we go down onto the ground whenever we get a chance, whether it is formally, whether it is informally, because we need to engage on a constant basis, because people need to understand what exactly is it that you're doing. What are the plans? Because they can't constantly hear it from a council chamber, because it's not everyone that can make their way to town to come sit in the council chamber. So that is what we're actively trying to do now, is to decentralize information as well. So that is the current route that we're planning on taking in terms of going down onto the ground on a constant basis, just to curb disinformation, because misinformation is very dangerous. And when a community doesn't understand something and they see it as immediately they misinterpret it as negative, of course, the outcomes of it would be an angry community against council members, and that is what we don't want. We want a very healthy working relationship between councillors and residents, of course. So the biggest thing is you need to have constant community engagement, and not just once a month.
All right. Now, talking about collaboration and relationship with councillors, how are you going to work with other councillors and the government levels for this area's sustainable future?
At the end of the day, I believe that because we all fall under the same ministry and we're all the same people, collaboration will, of course, happen. It's a given. What we have, perhaps the other council doesn't have, and so we have to work together to share. What the other council has, we don't have, and of course we have to share that too. So we are going to get to know each other very soon, informally, of course, before we get to the formal part of having bilateral relations or even sign MOUs between councils. We will be meeting, I believe it's in early February, that we will be all meeting together for the councillors' induction, where we will get to acquaint ourselves with different councillors and so on. And of course, during those informal sittings and through that, you communicate and you understand, okay, Mariental Municipal Council has this issue, and for example, the Aranov Town Council has the resources to assist there. So that's how you form the bonds, and that's where we'll see where we can come in. Currently, yesterday we sat down for the Disaster Risk Management Committee meeting to plan, because we did get a memo from OPM in regards to the irregular rainfall that we're going to receive in the next few months, which is of course going to be above normal and below normal rainfall. So we had to plan for that, and of course other councillors were there as well. So already that set in motion what other councils have and what we have, and how we can share it, of course, in terms, because you need to budget for disasters. So we have, of course, gotten into motion in terms of starting to discuss how we are going to assist each other in the region as different councils when it comes to disaster. So I don't believe that there will be any issue in terms of cooperation between the different councils, because if you're working for your communities, then there won't be any issue. The issue comes in when we politicize issues, because you're sitting there on the ticket of a particular political party, but you don't just serve people who have the membership cards of different political parties. You'll serve everyone, regardless of political affiliation, of course. So if every council's interest is to uplift their community and to make sure that a community grows, healthy growth, of course, then I don't believe that there will be any issue in terms of cooperation between us as councillors.
All right. Now, as we come to the end of this interview, perhaps just talk to us about future Namibia and how you actually plan on achieving the goals that you've mentioned, and of course the plans that are in place, that is through your work, that is for the entire Mariental constituency.
To put it into the most simplest of terms, once again, we can only, because each person has come in there with their plans, and we need to work, of course, realistically, and that also requires transparency.